Kita ya bisa. Kamu ini pengen sih. Ya.
Good day. I'm Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara, Undersecretary at the Department of Energy, Philippines. Today, with the ASEAN Center for Energy, we celebrate the International Women's Day, promoting gender inclusivity and honoring women's resilience and achievements globally and in the ASEAN. In the energy sector, inclusion means empowering women to flourish, fostering an environment where we are vital for progress. We must recognize and nurture women's talents, ensuring everyone has equal opportunities to succeed. Let us pledge to inspire inclusion in this International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day.
I'm pleased to join the ASEAN Center for Energy and the ACCEPT program in celebrating the role of women in the ASEAN energy sector. The energy sector has traditionally seen more males given its emphasis on technology and engineering. But in recent years, we see more women playing important roles in advancing our region's energy transitions. And this is important as we continue to build on the strong momentum of more gender diversity and inclusiveness in the energy workforce. As ASEAN strengthens its efforts towards the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation, known as the APAC, I look forward to a greater number of female voices and perspectives in supporting this energy transition. Thank you and a happy International Women's Day.
Sabadi, I'm Sang Duan Wong In, Acting Director General of Organization and Personnel Department, as of the President of the Women Union of Ministry of Energy and Mines, Laos PDR. Today, I join ASEAN Center for Energy and ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Project in marking International Women's Day under the theme Inspire Inclusion, championing the cause of gender inclusivity, as well as celebrating the resilience and achievement of women across the globe and within our ASEAN community. Inclusion means creating a world where women not only participate but thrive. In the energy sector, fostering an environment where every woman feels included, relevant, and empowered is vital for our collective progress. We are committed to an environment where women's talents are recognized and nurtured, advocating for equity and ensuring everyone has the opportunities and support to thrive. In the International Women's Day, let's press to inspire inclusion. Together, we can build a future where everyone belongs, contributes, and succeeds. Happy International Women's Day. Let's act on inspire and be inspired to include. Thank you. ขอบใจ
Hi, my name is Emilia Shagria. I am the Senior Officer of the Human Resources and Administration of ASEAN Center for Energy. The ASEAN Center for Energy are targeting 50-50 in terms of gender balance. Starting from the recruitment process, we try to attract women. We encourage them to apply for the position, not only in the mid-level, but also from the high level as well. We expect that a woman and men will have the equal opportunities in the organization and equal time for them to give some kind of impact also in the energy field. What needs to be improved I think the way we communicate the activities to the public, starting from the academic field, we need to implement that there is a place like ACE who is ready to having you as a new talent to contribute or to bring some kind of a fresh knowledge and ideas. It's difficult for them to reach us by direct approach, so they need to come to some kind of different system like what we currently having doing the activity from the online and different platform. So I think it can be reach more young talent and also expertise from different part of the world. To attract contribution for the woman in this energy field, we need to make some kind of strategy. What we have done in ACE is to give the flexible working hours, and also we do the performance evaluation in annual basis, meaning that we hope that by providing a merit performance, people can equally be evaluated. We made recognition program where men and women are competing each other for giving the best of their expertise, so we can see what has been done and who is doing it and what are the achievements in a very fair and equal manner. We hope whatever is being done on supporting the women in the energy field can be followed as well by the other sectors, not only in energy sector but also in other sector who has women as their employee. Happy International Women's Day!
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Happy International Women's Day. I am Rindan Faida, Communications Specialist at the ASEAN Center for Energy, and I am your host for today's webinar. Welcome to the Inspiring Women's Leadership in Energy for an Inclusive ASEAN webinar. This webinar is part of our commitment at the ASEAN Center for Energy to champion gender inclusivity in the energy sector. As we continue the celebration of International Women's Day, our webinar today aims to underscore the importance of role women hold in the energy sector and to foster greater inclusivity within our ASEAN community. As the official opening of our webinar today, I would like to invite Dr. Muki Agia Utama, the Executive Director of the ASEAN Center for Energy, to give his opening remarks. Dr. Muki, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Rinda. Good afternoon, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on this beautiful day. As we gather to commemorate the International Women's Day, and it is my sincere pleasure to welcome each of you to the Inspiring Women's Leadership in Energy for an Inclusive ASEAN webinar. Miss Santisuk Pim Pachant, the Alternate Leader of Lao PDR, and also panelists for Inspiring Women's Leadership in Energy for an Inclusive ASEAN webinar, delegates from ASEAN member states, colleagues from ASEAN Center for Energy. This occasion is a testament to our collective efforts to forge a fairer world through the calibration, introspection, and decisive action. Observing the enthusiasm from so many participants in this webinar conducted by ASEAN Center for Energy fills me with a hope. Our agenda today sets forth a shared exploration into the indispensable role of women in the energy domain, a sector where inclusivity is not merely beneficial but essential for our future sustainability. The ASEAN Center for Energy is enthusiastic to facilitate this webinar, driven by our dedication to promoting gender inclusivity and unlocking the vast potential of women in spearheading innovation and transformative change. Esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, throughout our upcoming session, we will dissect the various hurdles confronting women in energy industry and the infinite prospect that become available when we endorse gender inclusiveness. The involvement of women in decision-making roles and project conceptualization is fundamental for the equitable and comprehensive advancement of our energy strategies action. Colleagues, today we celebrate the progress made by ASEAN countries in empowering women, ensuring equal opportunities in energy sectors, and cultivating a setting where all individuals have the opportunity to excel. Through initiatives such as the ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Project, in collaboration with our partners from the Empower Projects by UNEP and also UN Women, as well as Oxfam International. The ASEAN Center for Energy stands at the forefront of this evolutionary journey. We at ACE take immense pride in the accomplishment of our female colleagues, whose exemplary performance in their fields has significantly propelled our collective endeavors forward. Their stories of triumph resonate across ASEAN, manifesting the pivotal role women play in ensuring sustainable and innovative solutions within energy domain. Despite various obstacles, the growing influx of women into the energy sector is a beacon of hope. Acknowledging the challenges that remain, it is crucial to emphasize the upticks in ASEAN female employability, which reached approximately 67% in 2020. As a mark of advancement, I think this statistic illustrates the burgeoning acknowledgement of the essential contribution women can make to the energy landscape. As we advance into today's enlightening session, let's proceed with open hearts and minds, ready to exchange insight, establish new connection, and acquire knowledge from each other. The dialogue today serves as the foundation for a future where the energy sectors reflect the diversity of the communities aims to serve. I extended my heartfelt appreciation to my peers at the ASEAN Center for Energy. Your unyielding dedication has been instrumental in bringing this webinar to fruition. Thanks to everyone for your participation in this vital conversation, and let us motivate and draw inspiration from each other as we forge ahead towards a more inclusive, sustainable, and also just energy future for ASEAN. I wish all a very fruitful discussion. Thank you so much. Back to you, Linda. Linda, you're still muted.
To today's webinar, I would like to invite all panelists and moderators to activate their cameras for a photo group session. Okay, see that everybody is here. Okay, I will count to 3. Ready, everyone? 1, 2, 3, smile. Another one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much. Now, we move forward into today's webinar. For an exciting part of the webinar, I would like to invite Ms. Aldila Nur Rahima, the research analyst at the ASEAN Center for Energy. Ms. Aldila will set the scene for today's discussion and launch the booklet on gender equality in the ASEAN energy. Ms. Dila, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Trinda. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers and guests. My name is Aldilan Rahima. I'm the Senior Research Analyst at the ASEAN Center for Energy, and I'm also currently involved in the ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Project. I'm very pleased to be here today to present and also share with you all our latest publication titled Gender Equality in the ASEAN Energy Booklet. You may proceed for the next. Okay, thank you, Indra. Can you move to the next, please? So, as the name implies, this booklet is launched to shed light on the current landscape of women's participation in ASEAN's energy industry. It is part of the work that we do here in ACCEP, short for the ASEAN Climate Change and Energy Project. So ASEAN Center for Energy, through the ACCEP project, has an overarching objective in supporting the coherence between energy and climate policy, in which gender equality is one area of concern, as upholding it is essential to materialize an inclusive ASEAN community. So in today's occasion, I would like to share with you the insights that we have in our booklet. So in the first, our booklet touched upon the background on gender equality itself. It defined gender equality as equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities, regardless of gender, emphasizing its importance for sustainable development and as a human rights issues. And we also touch upon the historical commitment and progress in ASEAN itself. So ASEAN's commitment to gender equality traces back to the 1988 Declaration on Women's Advancement, with subsequent efforts, including the establishment of the ASEAN Committee on Women in 2002, and then recently in 2023, ASEAN have a declaration of gender equality and family development. However, despite all this progress, there are still significant inequalities that persist, especially from our findings at the status quo. For now, we found that only 8% women in ASEAN are employed in the conventional energy industry. And then we also found that 15.8% there's only 15.8% of energy and gender programs in ASEAN that is concentrated on projects concerning renewable energy growth. And therefore, we at ACE acknowledge that women can bring fresh perspective in energy management, taking account their useful role as the household's energy manager. So because of that, by mainstreaming their voices in the energy industry, we can see many benefits in the improvement of renewable energy business performances, as well as other related advantages. And yet, we also found that achieving gender equity in the energy industry is still hindered by many factors. One of the most important factors is data insufficiency. This is because without data, policymakers could not gauge the current progress of gender mainstreaming efforts, as well as identifying effort areas for improvement. Slide, please. So previously here at ACE, we developed a framework for guiding the ASEAN member states policymakers when developing and implementing gender mainstreaming public policies. We called it a Renewable Energy Gender Roadmap. So the framework itself is a multi-year 4-phase roadmap. In the first 3 years, it will be emphasized on filling the data gaps relating to the current progress in gender mainstreaming efforts. And then from year 2, there will be an additional focus on proposing the suitable policies that also addresses the funding mechanism for women-led RE business and various capacity building measures. On phase 3, starting from year 3, key indicators will start to be developed to ensure policy implementation and periodical evaluation. Such evaluation will then be conducted from year 5 onwards. So along with all these measures on improving policy implementations, we also suggested for a designating working group to lead future works in enriching the gender energy nexus for year 6 onwards. Next slide, please. So all these roadmap, however, is what we can say as starting points. So for starters, implementing the roadmap will inevitably be impeded by a lot of constraints, and therefore strategies must also be deployed. So here we propose to implement 6 key strategies. First, as you can see in the slides, is better incorporate gender inclusivity in future ASEAN renewable energy long-term roadmap. And this is the product that is also currently working on. And then second is enhancement of ASEAN Center for Energy's role in discussion facilitation on the gender energy nexus. Third is to establish a toolkit that outlines guidance and consideration when dealing with the gender energy nexus. Fourth, engage with key institutions, both internal and external. Fifth is to liaise with relevant ministries and departments of ASEAN member states to be part of the initiative. And last but not least is to partner with existing national academic institutions in ASEAN to promote knowledge transfer. And aside from that, we also propose to synergize the role of the stakeholders. So synergizing the stakeholders' relationships post-roadmap implementation will then be led by a designated working group. So this is what we are proposing, that the ASEAN to establish ASEAN Gender Renewable Energy Working Group, where this working group will also be tasked in monitoring, reviewing, and planning the way forward when eventually the gender nexus has become widely recognized. And so after that, I think these are the things that we have included in our booklet. And so a more detailed explanation of the previous slides can be found in the booklet itself. Next, please. Which is free to download through our website. So we hope this booklet can be a tool to raise more awareness on how we can take advantage of the energy transition to rebuild a future energy sector that is more inclusive to women all across ASEAN. Thank you so much, everyone, for here, and I hope you can download this booklet and also read through it and to understand more, and perhaps to also support our initiative for more inclusive to women all across ASEAN, especially in the energy sector. Thank you. I'll give it back to Linda.
Thank you, Ms. Dila, for that enlightening presentation and for setting the stage for us. Next up, I would like to invite Ms. Amira Bilkis. She is an analyst at the ASEAN Center for Energy. Ms. Amira will introduce our survey on ASEAN energy gender mainstreaming efforts. Ms. Amira, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Rinda. So hopefully you are hearing me clearly. So today, as mentioned before, that Rinda said that I'm going to launch some survey. I actually picked the interest. There is someone already asking questions at this time of event, asking, so how do we actually, getting the data? So I think this is where we wanted to take the first step before we are working on our way up on the development of the energy gender data. But before that, maybe I would just to echo as well what Ms. Aldila has said. So basically, the ASEAN RE gender roadmap is something that we developed way back in 2022 with the support from the Empower Project Phase 1 organized by the UN Environment Program as well as the UN Women. And now we are actually entering the second phase of the work. And that is why here I would like to walk you through a bit on what we are actually have at ACE as a state of art of what is happening between the energy and gender in the sectors, as well as why we are launching this survey. So next slide, please. So I think Ms. Aldila has mentioned, a couple of times that, oh yeah, there is actually some initiatives, some appetite basically from the ASEAN itself, not only at the ASEAN as general, but also in the energy sector. So in energy sectors, the highest bodies under the ASEAN structures is actually the ASEAN Ministers on Energy meeting that usually happened every September. And this year is under the ASEAN Lao PRR chairmanships. We are actually expecting our another one in September in Vientiane. But before that, usually this meeting would actually generate a joint ministerial statement. At the 2 years in 29th ASEAN Ministerial Energy meeting as well as the 41st, both documents actually have the same commonality that relevance to what we are discussing today, meaning that at that time, the ministers actually agree as well that the idea to accelerate the just and inclusive energy transition. So first of all, we definitely wanted to know what's definitions that we wanted to really know what is just and inclusive energy transitions that we are envisioning. And at the same time as well, I would like to let you know that the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Corporations, or usually we call them as an ASEAN Energy Blueprint, is actually will expire on 2025. And we are actually under the development of the new one, meaning that the new phase, a new decade of change might actually happen in the development of this. And that is why we wanted to take this opportunity to actually getting to understand what is the ASEAN positions, ASEAN communities' positions on the interplay between energy and gender. Next one. And then, so what has been done over the course of the year where energy and gender has been, being explored at ASEAN Center and Center for Energy. We are actually not only the booklet that my colleague just launched, but previously we also have a development finance report. We also have the RE Gender Roadmap, in which highlighting and try to revisualize that into booklet. So thank you so much, Aldila and the team. And then at the same time, we also make a breakthrough where we are featuring our first energy and gender data statistics with the support from the UN Women's publications in the ASEAN Energy Statistic Leaflet. So basically, it's a knowledge product that we always launch every year regarding to energy. And at this time around, we also put sub-chapters on energy and gender. And we hope to have more and more data later on to be featured here. That is actual, that is informative as well for us to support the policymakers to make decisions, as well as not only report, we also do policy brief, we also do opinion pieces, and then now we have an ongoing works with the UN environment program. We have worked with the UN Women. We also have worked with ASEAN, as mentioned, and then soon we are going to have another support from Oxfam. Next. So this is just a brief of information that we are planning to have. We wanted, at this time around, we wanted to have a lot of learning exchange, that we are planning to invite all of the ASEAN member states, policy makers at the energy sectors, as well as a policy brief. We wanted to also understand how we can actually weave the energy and gender in the ASEAN Energy Blueprint. Some other knowledge products such as energy gender database framework, because we know that having data itself would requires identifying as well what's the framework, what's the indicators, what are the things that we need to actually support fact-based policy making practices. And then at the same time as well, we wanted to also have a side event at ASEAN Energy Business Forum that will be held back-to-back as well with the in the AMEM, as mentioned. And so we are inviting many partners that are interested to actually join hand in hand for us to actually have the first just and inclusive transitions as a team in one of the side event at the ASEAN Energy Business Forum. And not only that, we are planning as well to have a report, insights, and all of these ongoing implementations actually comes down with one of the things, next, in which we wanted to actually get to understand the public awareness, in the ASEAN communities, the perceptions, whether actually the gender inclusivity is very important or not in the energy sectors. And it also posed a pre-assessment of ASEAN challenges to adopt mainstream gender in the energy transitions policy, because in the end of the day, we really wanted to hear directly from the people, from the grassroots communities, from every other aspects, as mentioned, not only academicians, not only policymakers, we also wanted to hear from the private sector's perspective as well. That is why we wanted to invite you to actually feel this, our first ever energy gender survey. The sections that we are providing on this will be divided into 3 sections. The first one is gender awareness in the energy sector. We wanted to measure and understand what is the awareness between the ASEAN communities. The second is a policy making on mainstreaming gender in ASEAN energy policy. What's the challenges? What do you think would work best? And then last but not least is the insights on energy gender statistics data, meaning that maybe you want to see some data on specific interplay of energy and gender that you would like us to also find out as well. So all of these 3 sections, we really wanted to understand not only from women's perspective. So don't see it as invitations only for women, but it's also for any gender. So for men as well, that we wanted to hear from you, whether you are part of the energy sectors or even if you are not, because this survey is meant to be very open for you, whether you are actually have any background or just a little limited information about energy. That's fine. We really wanted to hear that from you. So you can just go to our link at go.aseanenergy.org/ACE survey. And we wanted to hear that way before Sunday, 28 April 2024, meaning that the next month. So hopefully by all this time, I would like to also encourage everyone to also echo this call for a survey. I think that would be the end of my presentations, and hope you can actually captures the QR code on the next slide, as well as maybe take a picture while we are working on it. I'm sure that my colleague would also circulate that on the chat box. Thank you so much. I'll hand it over to Rina.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Amira, for introducing the survey, which will be a very crucial tool for our continued work on the gender inclusivity in ASEAN region. Now, let us move to our very first panel discussion, which will be moderated by Ms. Aldila Nur Rahima, where our panelists will discuss the challenges and opportunities for women's inclusivity in the ASEAN energy sector. Ms. Aldila, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Rinda. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, all distinguished guests, panelists, and participants. My name is Aldila. I'm here again. I'm very honored to be here to moderate our first panel. So in this webinar, the Inspiring Women's Leadership in Energy for an Inclusive ASEAN, so we're going to talk in the first panel discussion of the day. We're going to talk about the woman's leader in the energy sector. And we have 4 distinguished panelists, all women leaders that come from different institutions, from government, energy company, and also from NGO. So before we start our discussion, allow me to read briefly short bio of our panelists here. First, we have Dr. Santi Supin Pachand, the Acting Director General of Department of Energy Policy and Planning, Ministry of Energy and Mines of Lao PDR. Dr. Santis received her degree in electrical engineering from the Faculty of Engineering, National University of Lao PDR, before she continues to study for her doctorate of engineering on electric power system management in the School of Environmental Resources and Development at ASEAN Institute of Technology, Bangkok. So besides having a role as the Acting Director General of Department of Energy Policy and Planning, she also have a role as an alternate senior official on energy leader of Lao PDR. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Santos. Our second panel, we have Dr. Ida Shahrina Fipol. She is the Deputy Undersecretary of Energy Efficiency Section, Sustainable Energy Division, Energy Sector, Ministry of Energy Transition and Water Transformation, Malaysia. She received her doctorate in political science, also had a master degree in international issues and a bachelor in international relations from Johns Hopkins University, USA. So in her role, she is responsible for the formulation and implementation of the national energy efficiency and conservation policy in alignment with national aspirations and global goals. Serve as a focal point on issues related to stakeholders, regulator, and project implementer of the industry. So from government, we're going to go to our third panel, coming from the perspective of energy company. We have Ibu Rosa Permatasari. She is the Director of Strategy and Business Development at PT Perusahaan Gas Negara. And she received her BA in Civil Engineering at Institute of Technology of Bandung. She also have received her master degree in the Global Leadership, MBA, the same in ITB Bandung as well. And also she got her master degree in Industrial and System Engineering from National University of Singapore. Besides her role leading the strategy and business development at PGN, or PGN, she is currently a doctoral student in management as well at ITB. So she received an award from SWA magazine as Indonesia Young Business Leaders Award and also Top Digital Awards in 2021. And then last but not least, we have a representative from NGO, which is Bu Maria Lauranti, the country director of Oxfam Indonesia. Ibu Maria is a leader that has been working in both humanitarian and development sector to create impact at scale in Indonesia and beyond. Her master degree in social welfare studies focuses on poverty, community development, and social responsibility, brought strong lens on program quality and management. Before joining Oxfam as country director, she practiced evidence-based advocacy on fiscal policy, social policy, and sustainable development with a prominent CSO in Indonesia. She also worked previously in the Ministry of National Development Planning. As a leader, she's also very passionate on leadership and organizational development. She believes organization needs to have good leaders to enable the people and system delivering the mission and realizing the vision in the organization. Please, everyone, give a warm applause to all of our distinguished panelists. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, all the panelists joining us in here. So now to actually start our discussion, I think a lot of people in here would like to know the experience from each of you, from each of the panelists, how they can be in their position now as a woman leader in the energy sector, as well as if you can share a bit the challenges that you face while climbing the stair, if we say, in your position now. And I will invite each of you to perhaps give a short answer, perhaps 2 to 3 minutes will suffice to answer my first question. And if I may start from Dr. Santisuk, please, if you can share your experience to become your position right now as the alternate SOE leader from Lao PDR. Please, the floor is yours, Dr. Santisuk. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. This is my great pleasure on behalf of Ministry of Energy and Mine, Lao PDR, to attend this meeting on the special for inspiring women leadership in energy for an inclusive ASEAN. This is very great to see all of the panelists and also the delegates from ASEAN member state. Because my background is from electrical engineer, and I work at this Ministry of Energy and Mine is about 23 years ago. And this is come along with my background from electrical engineer. My work is for the power system planning, and I have been come along with LTIP for power export from Laos to Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. And I was promoted from the out because before I was an alternate sole leader for work on the technical part, like a technical task force on the LTIP, and also some project for interconnection with neighboring countries. And this is what I have been and then just come along with work for the ASEAN. And this year, Laos is a chairmanship for meeting in Laos, and we are welcome you to attend the meeting together. I think it's maybe the short few words, and then we can talk later. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santiso. Indeed, this year is the Lao chairmanship period, so it will be exciting to perhaps come there to Lao and then to see a lot of more initiatives from Lao as the chairmanship of ASEAN in this 2024. So now, if I may ask to Dr. Ida Shukor for the same question, I think it will be very interesting to hear, especially from our young audience in here, since we know that your background is in international relations and also political science, very different from Dr. Santiso, who is coming from engineering background. So how can you be in this prestigious position now, leading the energy sector in Malaysia? Please, Dr. Ida.
Thank you, Adila. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. My gratitude to ACE for inviting Malaysia to also give opinion and viewpoint for this session. Ladies and gentlemen, to answer your first question, I would say it's not by accident that I ended up in the energy sector. Probably 10 years ago, I joined the utility sector, specifically the water and sewerage sector. And from there, I moved to energy sector. But when I started in the utility sector, it was, as you know, difficult for me because of my background. I had two main challenges. The first is being from a non-technical background, trying to come up with policies that are actually about the technical sector. So that was my first challenge that I had to overcome. And secondly, probably being a woman in a sector predominantly dominated by men. So trying to get as much information, trying to understand the landscape of the energy sector was also a challenge. But as the years pass, I think that I pushed myself to actually learn more about the technicalities of the job. So, you know, going to talk to people in the engineers on the ground at the site, and also to meet with, to go and visit sites and plants and understand the technologies being used, and not being shy, and also being more inquisitive and being passionate about overcoming the challenges. That would be my short answer to your question, Adila.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ida, for your answer. I'm actually relate so much about it because I'm also not coming from STEM background. I'm also coming from economics background. So I think a lot of people in here also like to know more, either how to get into the engineering program and then finally on the energy sectors, or also people that is not coming from those backgrounds. So now we hear from the side of the government, and I think moving on, we'd like to to hear more, especially from the experience in the private sector. And we have Ibu Rosa Permatasari with us today. You might have a different stories and challenges as well as one of the leaders in Indonesia's state-owned energy company. Please, the time is yours, Ibu Rosa.
Thank you, Miss Adildila, and everyone. Very pleased to meet you all in this circumstance. And then addressing to your question, I think I am very aware whenever I choose this background, my educational background, to be in the male-dominated sectors. But for being in the energy sectors, I never imagined that also. So if you see as a civil engineer, I was in the area wherever very male-dominated sectors, and then the majority are from the petroleum, or then the process, or then the chemistry. So very different what I learned in the civil engineering. So it's also being a challenge for me at the first year I am here in PGN, or then in the Pertamina in the last 5 years. But then what I learned about how to collaborate and integrate all the project, the program, and then having understanding of the horizon of the business, it's really helped me to be collaborative with all the sectors, all the subsectors in the energy. And therefore, I believe that whatever happened, actually in energy sector, very open to see women as part of their partners. And I experience a lot, even though all my subordinates are male. There are so many times I am the only woman in the room, but then what is our thought is being accepted as long as we can see the value of our analysis, how we can elaborate the problem and then propose the solution. So yes, there is some challenge at the first step, but then if you do all the things by your authenticity, and I believe the challenge can be overcome.
Thank you so much, Bu Rosa. Yeah, I think that is very true, that one of the challenges that we have as a woman working in this male-dominated sector is usually we are in the panel maybe, or in the meetings, and then we are the only women in the room. But luckily now we do have this panel, and we have all women panels in this occasion. So it's a good start, I think so. Thank you again,
Yes.
Bu Rosa. And moving to Bu Maria now. We have now again it's very different perspective from NGO, and especially with your background in social welfare. But you also have experience working in with the Indonesian government. So may I know, can you share a bit, perhaps, with your experience? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Aldila. It's really my pleasure to be with all of you during this very important celebration of International Women's Day, and also the fact that we would like to recognize women's role and participation in energy sector. I think for civil society organizations, it is really by choice, and we are committed to be part of the conversation, particularly in the area of policy making processes, to make sure that we are there so that we can also provide perspective and also voices, aspirations from the ground, particularly those that actually experience injustice, experiences that are affecting marginalized economic and social groups. And in particular, civil society organizations like Oxfam would like to really be part of the conversation, because we already know and we already hear that this is really a male-dominated environment, but it is very important to also reflect together the fact that everything that we have in terms of dimensions, political, economic, social, is really affected from the ongoing boiling earth situation and condition that we have as part of the climate change impact. And because of that, it is very important to involve women's rights organizations and those who are really affected from the climate situation that we are having on Earth. And I think this is where women's role become very important, because they are really at the backbone of the economy. And also, because of the climate change and also energy transition, women has always been in a position that they are disproportionately, performing care work, and usually they have lack of access to clean energy, and therefore they have less benefit from the energy promise that we have in the political sphere. And that's why we are committed to make sure that I'm not the only woman, but more women are going to engage in this conversation together with other policymakers.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Bu Maria. And I think since you mentioned about just energy transition, when we're talking about inclusivity, especially when we are moving from the one sector from, fossil fuel into into renewable energy, we're talking about a lot of jobs that will be need to kind of like move, and then women also will be one of the people that will be impacted in that. And I think it's very clear and very strong comment that you mentioned, that we need to have more women to be in this conversation, as you mentioned. So thank you again, Bu Maria. And I think that's after hearing about the experience of all of you, the panel that here today, perhaps we're going to, if I may ask some questions that is usually imposed when people talking about gender equality, especially in the male-dominated sector. People, I think a lot of questions that are coming. There are a lot of questions about gender pay gap, and so I just would like to know, do you have any experience on these? Perhaps in the experience from your country or from your institution or from your organization, how they ensure equal compensation for women in the energy sector, if I may ask. Perhaps if Dr. Santiso, if you may start the discussion, if you have any experience in here, perhaps from, or if not exclusive from that, from Lao PDR itself, what is the how they ensure equal compensation for women in energy sector? Please, Dr. Santiso.
Thank you very much. According to our government policy to support the women, because in Laos we have some policy support for women and ethnic group. This is the first thing. And also we have some organization inside of them. Because in our government we have like some union, they call it a youth union for men and women. It's the young one under 35 years old. And women union, trade union, and this is the main union that we have. But inside of the Ministry of Unity and Mind, we have this union also, like a young youth union, women union, and trade union. This is we have some annual meeting or yearly meeting. We have some activity to join, like a sport or some trip with a woman. And for our Ministry of Unity and Mind, they also have one division for support for the capacity building of the women. This is what our support from our management. For the women in Ministry of Unity and Mind, we have many kind of the women. It's like an admin for international relationship or some technical, like engineer or some for the IT. This is many of them can work on the different department because we have like a 7 department and 2 institute. Maybe I can give you some example, like we have a cabinet office or personnel department, like a HR. They have a monitoring department. They have, for us is a energy policy and planning is a technical department for issue the policy, vision, strategy, and development plan. And another department like energy planning and cooperation. This is our ASEAN secretary team here. And also we have like a department of energy business, energy efficiency and promotion. And we have research institute. Among of us is we call this a Ministry of Energy and Mine. And we also have 2 departments of mine. This is we have many ladies working on. And our capacity building is also that our management try to support women to have more chance when you have to go for the training or some working that they have to do like a gender equal. It's like more women is a more priority. Maybe I'm just share some point from our ministry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santisot. It's very clear answer what we learned from what has Lao PDR, especially in Ministry of Energy and Mines, has been doing to ensure gender equality in the sector itself. Now, as we hear these answers from the government perspective, if I may perhaps ask from the company perspective, perhaps Ibu Rosa, if you have any experience in this, or perhaps if your institution have also any say on these, please, Rosa.
Yeah, I think in Pertamina we do have the equal compensation, so there is no gender pay gap, but it's really subject then because of still the average of women workforce and women leadership in the company is still very low. So we still have around 18% only for the workforce, and then 16% for the women leadership in our Pertamina's group. So this is still a very big room for improvement for Pertamina to have a roadmap and then achieve the 30% percentage of workforce and women leadership in 2030. So this is our goals right now. And if I use the Indonesian data, the gap for the salary between men and women in February 2022 is still around 22%. So yet there is still the gap between this male and then the female. So how the government try to address this problem? I think we can reflect that from policy that Indonesian government try to impose, such as the educational sector, where they are now impose the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to be very open for the women applicants. So because we believe if we want to see them in the next 20 years, then we started from now to have to foster all the generation to be interested to these energy sectors. And the last one is that seeing the women's leadership in the energy transition, we believe can inspire all the women to participate in these sectors. And we are very agree that there will be a better future for the women inclusivity in the near future.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rosa. That is definitely what we need right now. And yeah, thank you for sharing for what Pertamina aspire in terms of gender inclusivity. And I think perhaps my last questions in here before we go into Q&A, I think we have a lot of questions already, would be to Bu Maria, perhaps, and also Dr. Ida in here, if I may. when we're talking about these challenges, and then also there's also still a lot of opportunities that we have, then if we talk about strategies for inclusivity, so in your opinion, perhaps, what do you think is what should we do, or the strategy to have these similar perspectives on gender equality? If for Dr. Ida, perhaps especially in the energy sector, and then maybe Maria, if you can have a more broad perspective on this. Thank you. Yeah.
Who should start? Is it me? Okay. Dr. Ida, let me try to answer the question, and I will pass it on to you. So thank you for the question. So basically, I think when it comes to women's participation in labor force, and let alone to finally have it, achieving gender equality in terms of pay, I think what needs to be recognized is really the fact that women is really having a greater obstacle to be part of the labor enforcement, because of the fact that women has always been performing and delivering care work in the family. So this is really related to the patriarchal lens that really impacted, how women can actualize ourselves, particularly in, education, and therefore after education in our career pathway. And in doing so, we need to really recognize that if we don't actually address the problems to really enable women so that women can meaningfully participate in the workforce, in all sectors, including in energy, then it will be very difficult for women to then return to work, particularly after women giving birth. So this is really important, and this is really strongly, linked between one to another. So it is very important then to make sure that we develop a gender responsive labor policy that can enable women so that women can advance in their profession and be recognized on how they can contribute in the sector, particularly when it comes to energy. We know for a fact already that in education, it is very little or less number of women that go to STEM education and become engineers and whatnot. So this is one step for us to recognize, to reduce, to redistribute, represent, and reward care work, so that women can be released from social expectation to be the only agent in the society to deliver and perform care work. And because we finally be able to address that, then women will have more opportunities for women to excel in energy sector and in any other sector. So this is one of it. Other strategy that I would like to really highlight when it comes to, developing strong gender responsive sustainable energy policy, I think we need to start from data. So gender statistic and disaggregated data are needed to create more comprehensive assessment on energy value chain, on energy industry, so that we can clarify who are exactly there and what kind of framework that we already create together to enable both men and women to thrive, in providing, contribution in the energy sector. And this will definitely then, need to be operationalized so that the data can fit to the policy processes. And when it comes to on-site engagement, I just want to let you know that we all need to practice and promote how we can mainstream women to be the champion in rural energy, because when it comes to the use and benefit of energy at local level, we know for a fact that we want women to enjoy more clean energy so that they don't be impacted from health cases because of the energy that they use on daily basis. And to do so, we need to promote meaningful participation for women and vulnerable groups in energy project development when it comes to, small scale grid deployment and clean energy that will benefit women more, business development training for local small micro enterprise that is led by women and youth as entrepreneurs. And basically, finally, to provide access for women for finance support when it comes to energy project at rural or local level. I think I will just stop there, and I will pass it on to Dr. Ida to, empower each other.
Thank you, Ibu Maria. I think there are some points that you mentioned earlier that I think we can all relate to in terms of mainstreaming gender in policy. I would just like to take an example from the Malaysian experience. Back in 2004, we came up with the policy of 30% women in the labor and decision-making level. So this is 20 years on, and there have been that to me was a progressive policy that was put in place by the government at that time, and you can see as a result in the Malaysian public administration or public service that the number of women in decision-making roles have actually increased significantly in that time. For example, in the energy sector, we have had one minister, female minister for energy. We had two secretary generals, women, and also two deputy secretary generals, women. And the number of females in the ministry has actually somewhat of a significant number in comparison to men. So in that sense, the 30% did help pushing the equal participation of women in labor. However, of course, we feel that there is more opportunities that women can participate in the decision-making roles. So I think of course, the strategy should be focused on how to get more women inside from the tertiary level going into the energy sector, and also how to retain the women in energy sector, as Ibu Maria said just now, the benefits and the allowing women to have good maternal allowances, and also for leaves and those kind of things. And also, I think one of the most important thing that we have to put out there is that there are the attractiveness of the jobs for women in the energy sector. It does not just include the engineering or the sciences, but it also has the economics of it, or the diplomacy of energy. And those are things that could actually increase the attractiveness for women who wants to be in the sector. So that would be something that we can all look at. Thank you, Adila.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ida. Thank you so much, Maria, for all of these answers. And I think due to the time, we actually can only answer one question from the audience. We have received several questions in here, and I believe, I think some of these questions actually already answered by the speakers. For example, what are the specific interventions from countries, and then what has been Malaysia doing, particularly to uplift women in here, particularly in energy area. And perhaps I will ask this one question from Nancy to close our session for today's. Maybe we would like to hear from each one of you. What is exactly the obstacles that we still have today to increase women participation in the energy sector? If I may ask to the panelists. And if I may, maybe we can start with Maria, and then we can follow with Dr. Ida, and then Bu Rosa and Dr. Santiso. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think the greater obstacle will really start with recognition. So it is really important for all of us to recognize that women is not only numbers to be achieved by all of us in terms of achieving greater goal, that women finally in the ladder of energy sector. But first and foremost, to really see that woman is really an agent of change, we need to recognize women with intersectional lens, that woman is there with another, role and embedded sex, contribution when it comes to reproductive healthcare. So in that sense, it is very important for all of us, to enable women to thrive in energy sector. We need to make sure that gender policy, gender responsive policy is really developed with the thinking and the perspective that we are using intersectional lens. We recognize women as they are, and we make sure that affirmative policy is actually developed so that women can participate meaningfully in policy processes, in the implementation, in the benefit, and enjoying benefit of clean energy and so on. So this is the first step. The second step is really to make that operationalized. Like I said, we need to make sure that data speaks louder, so that we can refer to data when we make policy. And policy can be at national level by the government. It can be policy at private sector. It can be policy at organizational level. But in that sense, we need to make sure that all those policies are actually developed using the intersectional lens, recognizing women's role and contribution. And in doing so, I think because we are in the space of Southeast Asia, ASEAN, we need to really promote and push for policy that is very strong at regional level, so that it can create enabling environment, but also a driver, for national level government to really create the right policy so that we can accelerate gender equality efforts. And in doing so, we want to make sure that a just energy transition is really applying, the principles where we recognize that whatever we do in terms of energy transition, when it comes to industry, investment, and all that, it really affects people. And when we say people, it will include the marginalized people as well, and the vulnerable. So I think this is very important as a starting point. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Bu Maria. It's very, very well thought answers. And perhaps we can go to Dr. Ida.
I would say you were talking about obstacles for women. It's in my perspective, it is all about perception. I think perception of whether being in the energy sector is difficult field to be in. In my case, in the beginning, as I said earlier, I found it quite intimidating, because being in the government, in the energy sector, you have to know all these jargons, and they use all these terminologies and these formulas, and it drives, it makes you afraid to actually venture into the energy sector. So I think it's all about how we perceive things. And in many cases, I mean, I don't think it's just limited to the energy sector. When it comes to areas that are dominated by men, there would be that kind of fear. So I think instead of going into that direction, we should also leverage on the strengths that women bring into the sector. So there are a lot of women out there. I've seen them myself in action. They are good negotiators. They are good mediators, and they are great multitaskers. And those kind of strength we should leverage and capitalize on, and bring value to the sector. That's my opinion on this. Thank you, Abdullah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ida. And maybe we can continue to you, Rosa.
Yes. Miss Aldila. So for me, there are two things I guess that we can see as the obstacle. The first one is the alignment of the policy, the alignment from the government policy, and then how the corporate translate to the corporate policy. So then we can enhance this or that echoing the same objectives to have more women inclusivity in our energy sectors. And many kind of policies such as the flexibility time is also some things that we can deep dive and implement to give a choice for all the women so then they can still perform very good in their family and also in their career path. And the second one is, of course, the obstacle will be in the women itself. So how we can be confident and then speak our thought is also becoming a challenge. So sometimes they do have the interested to be in the women leadership level, but they still have a handicap in a thought that, oh, I might have a less network, I might have less competence. So this kind of the capacities and capabilities that need also to be built in our female workforce.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for your
ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, so we may go to our last panelist, Dr. Santi Sok. What is your take on this?
Thank you very much. Maybe I share some point on the obstacle for the women because normally our women is work on energy sector. They are involved for the we call it a national power development plan. Normally we have based on a 5-year socio-economic plan, and after that we summarize and make for the 5-year plan and 10-year plan like a PDP. But normally for the movement, they just involve for the planning. And some of them, like for the electricity now, they also have movement. This one is for the implement part. And both sides have some time we have to discussion. And right now we come with the theme for the energy transition. We have a lot of time to discuss and exchange some knowledge. And currently we have some support from Australia government also to talk about women leadership. This is my second time to attend the meeting. Before I also joined with another organization called USAID. They also mentioned about the RE women in renewable energy. We also have some exchange to encourage on the women to participate on the planning and how to implement and how to support them for improve the knowledge and skill. But normally we have some plan for support to the women in energy. We also didn't have time to go overseas for some training to improve the skill and like a capability to apply for the work and have chance like some expert with some project. This is what we have support to the women. And we try to make balance and try to have helping them more to have more opportunity to work with overseas or to have some exchange. We hope so that in the near future they will be like one expert also. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santos. That is the perfect answer to kind of conclude this session that we have in this first panel. So thank you again for all of the panelists here for being here today, talking about challenges and opportunities for women inclusivity in ASEAN energy sector. If I may, if we can have like a small photo session first. Yes, I think so. All the panelists here. Okay, if I may say 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you again, Bu Maria, Dr. Ida, Bu Rosa, and Dr. Santi Sok for your participation. And thank you. I'll give it back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aldila and all panelists. What a truly insightful discussion. Now, with the insight gathered from our first discussion, let's transition to the second panel of today's webinar. The second panel discussion will be moderated by Ms. Amira Dukis. The session will focus on paving the way for gender mainstreaming within our ASEAN energy blueprint. Now, let me give the floor to Ms. Amira.
Thank you so much, Linda, for the very warm welcome. So I'm glad that I will be moderating for this session. So previously, we are actually, getting inspired, living up to the hashtag that are, being brought this month. I think that everyone is like very familiar with it, inspire inclusion. And I think this is where we are also wanted to realize the first step of the challenges that has been mentioned and identified as well in the first panel. And then we are going to shift our discussions a bit in a more to a technical policy-making processes in a way that we wanted to have a gender mainstreaming happening in the ASEAN energy sector that maybe can start with the ASEAN energy blueprint. In my first presentations before, I mentioned that we are now in these intersections where ASEAN energy blueprint is being renewed, being developed for the next decade or 5 years. And that is why maybe it's a very prime time as well for actually getting an experts insights on these issues. And now I'm here not alone, definitely. We are actually featuring 4 different amazing figures, and I would like to also invite Mr. Miguel as well, to turn on your cameras. Oh, hi. So yeah, we probably just introduce you a bit on this 30-minute sessions on the 4 speakers. So probably unlike the previous one, in this sessions, we also have male panelists. And I think it's very important as well to, have a space for us to talk, not only from the woman perspective, but maybe also from the male, and especially Mr. Miguel is also an assistant director of the Poverty and Gender Divisions at the ASEAN Secretariat. So hi, Mr. Miguel. Yeah, so just to walk through on his bio, in addition to being an assistant director, he is actually also been supporting the development and implementations of the ASEAN Gender Mainstreaming Framework in the ASEAN and the development of several ASEAN reports, such as the ASEAN Gender Outlook, and then the state of art for genders as well in the climate change. And then we also here with Director Amelia de Guzman, our Department of Energy GAD Technical Working Groups Chair in the Philippines. Hi, Director Amelia. Nice to meet you. Yeah, so not only that she is a geologist herself, she is a director of the Department of Energy Research and Testing Laboratory Services, and as well as an advocate of addressing the gender gap in the science. And she initiated the project of Girls and Science as well. And then we are here as well with Dr. Ami Rogers, Regional Program Specialist on Climate Change and Gender in the UN Women. Hi, Dr. Ami. So for the past 9 years, Ami's professional experience has been working for the UN Women Country Office in Asia Pacific on gender equality dimensions on climate change, disaster risk reductions, and the environment. And she also produced training and designed learning materials as well on gender and climate change with the United Nations Institute for Training and Research. And last but not least, we have Ms. Anna V. Rojas. Hopefully, spell your name correctly. She is a gender and energy specialist at the UNDP, bringing 17 years dedicated to advancing gender equality in renewable energy and climate change sectors. And she also has provided technical gender mainstreaming support to energy and climate change policies, programs, projects, and partnerships across the group. So they are really, the rocking stars of this panel sessions, and I would like to hear your thoughts on several questions that I would like to pose on this talk show. So I think the first question, I've been talking about the regional energy blueprint is actually drafting the new cycle. So maybe the first questions to all is that, do you think it's definitely first and foremost important step? And second, do you think how ASEAN can actually, mobilize and ASEAN specifically the energy sectors to translate the gender mainstreaming efforts into actionable plans or policy document in place? Because now, as mentioned before, that we already have the roadmap, but how we can actually, trying to instill that in the ASEAN Energy Blueprint. Maybe I could start with Director Amelia de Guzman, and then after that, we'll go to the other topics.
Hi, good afternoon. And first, I would like to thank ACE for inviting me to share my insights on energy. And for me to answer your question, for how to translate the gender mainstreaming effort into an actionable plan, policy document in a place, considering the importance of it to be clearly implemented. Yeah, we at the Department of Energy are serious about gender mainstreaming. We like it to be central in our governance. And one example is we would like to hear the voice of the women from the grassroots, from the very bottom. So we institutionalize, if we in the design of our projects and programs, there's this energy toolkit that we are guided on, to see if our programs are aligned with gender mainstreaming. So I think it's one of the more actionable points. And of course, it takes political will and total commitment from the management to make sure that this goes through. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amelia. So it's more to like putting a gender quota, for example, and targets as well in the toolkit?
Yes, we crafted this toolkit because we couldn't find, because in the Philippines there's a generic toolkit for gender and development, but we could not really zero in because energy is such a specific science. So we crafted our own, because everybody has agriculture, fisheries, they all have the generic toolkit, but we had to fashion one for ourselves with the help of USAID. So there's the toolkit that we are guided. So it's like even in the inception of the project, there's a checklist like, did you consider the women's voices, the women's perspective in the design of the project, and so on and so forth, until the implementation. And we submitted to the projects review committee to see if it's gender responsive. And of course, if it's not gender responsive, it does not necessarily mean that it's not going to be approved, but it helps that we put the gender dimension for this one, so that there's a score. If you score above this, then you get premium from the government, like because all the Philippine agents, the government agencies, they're supposed to spend 5% of their budget from gender and development programs. So if you have projects that are responsive, are gender responsive, then you get a premium, you get scores. Yes.
Okay, so I noted gender budgeting as well as toolkits as well. So basically tools that would actually enables the environment. Thank you so much, Director Amelia. Maybe I would like to hand it over first to Dr. Amy Rogers. Maybe you'd like to share with us your insights.
Thanks so much, Amira, and thanks to ACE for this invitation to speak. It's really lovely to be here today with some familiar faces and to meet some new friends as well. I think it was really exciting to hear that example actually from the Philippines about how you've managed to design that, it's sort of tailored, specific tool for your use there, which I think is really, really critically important. And one of the things that I wanted to raise today in terms of with this increasing momentum to shift to low carbon economies and that push for uptake on renewable energy, I think we really need to make sure we keep that human-centered approach. And it really has to contribute to gender equality for this region. So raising the technical skills and capacity, I think, on gender mainstreaming is one of the key points. And that's really to unearth those gender dimensions in location-specific contexts, which really speaks to what our colleague from the Philippines has already spoken to. I think also, you know, really establishing inclusive institutional arrangements is another really key point that I wanted to highlight, so that we can ensure just processes around the just energy transition and really bring to the centre women, other marginalised groups and those left behind into decision-making processes. I also wanted to really point out that I think dedicated forums like these are so important for this continued dialogue. And it really is also useful for that kind of monitoring and review of this effort, this continued effort on gender mainstreaming in that progress we're making in ASEAN policy development.
Thank you, Dr. Ami. So I think from what I understand, that maybe discussions like this should not only be on March every year, but we need to definitely, talks about it every other month, So yeah, that's exciting, Dr. Ami. So maybe I would like to hand it over to Mr. Miguel.
Thank you very much, Amira. And to answer the question, how to translate the gender mainstreaming effort into actionable policy plans and at the ASEAN level, I think it's quite important for the energy sector within ASEAN to incorporate it in their work plan. And there's already a clear mandate from the ASEAN leaders to introduce gender perspectives in the sectoral work plan. So it will be a fulfillment of such mandate if the energy sector would be successful in integrating this in their, I suppose, next 5-year work plan. Another matter is for the energy sector to also showcase and feature your gender mainstreaming initiatives at the broader ASEAN level. Currently, I think ACE already is a member of the ASEAN Gender Mainstreaming Strategic Committee. This is a committee spearheaded by the ASEAN Committee on Women and the ASEAN Commission on the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Women and Children, or ACWC. And it is through this cross-sectoral committee where all of these gender mainstreaming initiatives are being shared and also celebrated. I think the third point is, and this circles back to what Director Amelia said earlier on building capacities, including in the work plan of the energy sector. It will be very crucial to build capacities of the gender focal points, the government officials, and also having a context-specific and tailor-made tools, and guidelines. Just like what Director Amelia said earlier, there are guidelines that addresses the broader gender mainstreaming initiatives, concepts, but for the energy sector, it would be of most benefit if it would be tailor-made, tailor-fit to the specific needs of the sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miguel. And last but not least, Ms. Anna.
Thank you, Amina, and good afternoon to all of you. Ana Rojas, Senior Gender and Energy Specialist from UNDP. It's an absolute pleasure to be in this conversation today, where I think we have very similar voices, listening to the previous speakers, and that we are coming into commonalities of what could be necessary for having this actionable agenda in the Asian region. And thank you for the invitation. Let me circle to some of the things that I've heard, but I definitely wanted to bring on because they are fundamental. And the one that I wanted to start with is the need to have data. But not only those, and let me be a little bit dramatic, those cold data on participation, but also data on what are the benefits from having improved energy access, having access to clean energy, and making sure that by increasing this energy access or having this transformation, we are not increasing economic gaps. And I think that this is fundamental. As UNDP, we see energy as a catalyst of development and also as a catalyst of gender equality. But in order for us to know that, we need to know what could be those impacts that we will have with the shifts in policies. So having this gender analysis and definitely the participation of women to know exactly how these policies would impact their lives, also impact the lives of marginalized groups, is very relevant. Just wanted to point out an example from Indonesia in which by not only saying that women were involved, but actually listening to the conversation, it was possible through an access process from UNDP to set tariffs for electrification that were actually, payable, but also relevant to also not only have access at the household level, but also to support entrepreneurship opportunities, right? So here the call is for us to have a larger development lens when we're talking about the energy sector and make sure that we are integrating those aspects into the roadmap. Because the roadmap that you're developing will have to deal with very big ticket items like decarbonization. And I know we're tight on time, so let me just run up with other elements. I think Director Amelia mentioned something that is very important: budget. We need to make sure that through the policies, there is clarity in the activities, but there is also a call for these activities to be supported with budget. And I also want to reinforce the comments from the previous speakers on the need to increase institutional capacities, and also to have tools that would allow these ministries, not only the ministries of energy, but ministries of finance, for example, ministries of women's affairs, to be able to have an X-ray of how they're working, how they are undertaking this work, but also how they are translating their gender equality commitments into implementation. And I would leave it there, but very happy to come to other elements over the conversation. Thank you.
Sure, thank you so much, Anna. So actually all of your questions actually covering all of the second and my third question. So I'm glad that we are actually, coming up to provide some scene settings for everyone to understand what's, the state of art. So allow me to just go one by one of very specific questions to everyone, which I think very important. I would like to turn my attention first to Dr. Amelia on, the Philippines initiative on having the GAD. When we try to link that up to what's happening in ASEAN, I would like to ask you how important and how do your government or institutions actually mobilize an inclusive stakeholder dialogue for gender mainstreaming policymaking processes on how the process of that GAD is actually, coming into place, and understand that it is something that exactly tailored to what is actually needed in your area of work.
Yeah, thanks for the question. An inclusive stakeholder consultation is really critical to achieve our goals. I will just cite a specific example where we deal with a subsector, because as a geologist and as a female in a male-dominated field, I am always frustrated by the gender gap in the sciences. So 11 years ago, we figured that to address that, we began the Girls in Science project. So we have gone to maybe 50 schools now all over the Philippines to encourage girls, maybe 15, 16 years old, to take up careers in the sciences, because the institutions have always been unfair to girls, because it's a church, the family, it's always science is hard, girls are not fit to the rigors of science, etc., etc. So we thought of this small project to encourage girls to take up careers in the sciences. And we do it in before they get to choose the track to go into STEM. Because most of the time, because the Philippines is very conservative, old-fashioned Asian country. So we tend to listen to our parents. And our parents want us to take up nursing or teaching or accounting because they never run out of style. So it's always the males taking up engineering because it's not for girls. So we take our expertise, and usually my strategy is to have apart from us geologists is to have because we lack role models in the sciences. So I ask one person to speak about her experiences and how she became a scientist and all that. So to full encourage, and then at the end we say you be a geologist or a chemist and go to the Department of Energy, because in the Department of Energy, the department sends you abroad to further your studies, and you get to see other countries and other cultures. So, and then after a year, we go back to the school to see if they really chose STEM. So hopefully, because not all provinces have universities, so we're still working on it. But I always tell my office mates, if we can only convince only one student per school, and then we track them. We have a website. We have a Facebook page. So we track them. We're still friends with them. And then if they have researches on biodiesel and geology, we help them, because there's always a dearth of mentors in the sciences. So that's a very small stakeholder engagement that we do. Thank you.
Right. So establishing networks, be the mentors of for others, be inspirations for the other women as well, I think is very important. Thank you so much for highlighting that, Director Amanda. And now probably turn to Dr. Amy, and I think it's following as well on what Anna has highlighted before about gender disaggregated data on energy and gender. So how crucial, and if it is, and especially because UN Women has supported ASEAN as well on having the ASEAN gender outlooks on data, and specifically they are talking about renewable energy as well, but it's just goes far until that. Maybe we can actually talk a little bit more, I think, how we can expand that to have like a more data that would inform policymakers. Dr. Amy.
Thanks so much for that question, Amira. And it's already been raised several times today about this gap on data, on gender data and gender statistics. And evidence-informed decision-making is paramount. And really we're at UN Women are really trying to build up the evidence base that we have on gender and environment, broadly, gender and environment data, but that also includes on issues related to energy. And I think that the ASEAN statistics leaflet was a really promising, start of how do we bring this together? How do we bring this element into the mainstream? And I think really, looking at clean cooking fuels is a critically important area, which has clear implications for women and for gender equality as well. But then I would also say, and to echo what Anna and others, have been saying as we've listened for the last hour or so, is really looking beyond traditional and stereotypical implications of energy, and the energy gender nexus, and how do we actually look at gender and social discrimination, which impacts the opportunities to be able to sort of take advantage of this just energy transition. And so I think really...
Dr. Amin, so having more detailed data would definitely be helpful for us. Maybe do you have any examples maybe that were actually helpful for us to actually be inspired to gather those data?
I think that, as I said, there's a little bit of work that's being undertaken now on a large-scale gender and environment survey, which UN Women is pioneering in this region in particular. And I'd be happy to share with you some of the ways in which that tries to drive at looking at, for example, opportunities around household decision-making around those kind of RE uptake, and those kind of areas. And I'll be sure to send some links in the chat for you as well.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Ami. So I'll turn my attentions first to Mr. Nigo. I think there are a lot of discussions, right, in the ASEAN generally on the theory of change of gender equality. Maybe we can actually talk a little bit more on how the energy sectors could actually keep up on that particular topic, so that we can actually learn a little bit more from other sectors such as agriculture, that would have like a very specific efforts that has been concentrated there.
Thank you, Amira, for that question. I think the strength of the energy sector, the cooperation of ASEAN on the energy sector, it's already quite robust, no? And this serves as the foundation and the context by which to launch this gender analysis, no? And really investigate and unpack how gender implications or consequences are located within the sector. Now, this is bridging what the ASEAN Committee on Women and ACWC are doing. And maybe I can flag 3 key areas, no? One was already mentioned by Maria earlier on unpaid care and domestic work. This really has a pronounced connection with the energy sector because it really leads to time poverty and energy poverty, which is mainly felt by women. No? Secondly is on gender stereotypes. No? And we see this perhaps in the design of energy projects, also the impacts on women beneficiaries. No? So that's one other area where the theory of change can be fully understood, no, by the energy sector of ASEAN's cooperation. And the third area is on leadership of women and participation in policy making. And I think we saw in one of the questions raised by one of the participants, I think there's a question there that says, how can we make women more qualified? No, so it's not. I think we heard from the example of Director Amelia earlier that there are ongoing efforts, no, to increase women and young girls' participation in the STEM field, but the gender stereotype, the system itself, no, really needs to be revisited and recalibrated, no, so that access to education by young girls, leading towards STEM field, also including recruitment, no, and training opportunities for women. As sometimes these are not what do you call this? These are things taken for granted, but there's a hidden male bias there, no, that we need to shed light on. So I think those 3 key areas can really put a light on how the uptake on the theory of change can be done in ASEAN. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miguel. I think last but not least questions to Ms. Anna on very briefly walk us through on the lesson learned from other sector, for example, in environment and all agriculture, as mentioned, on how the energy sectors could actually learn on how do we mainstream gender on that. And then I'll take a moment for Ms. Anna to briefly talk on these questions.
Thank you, Amita. And I hope you can hear me well. So I've been reflecting about this question and how we can learn from the work that we have already been doing on environment. But let me also bring it to energy. I think one of the lessons that we've learned is that it helps us a lot to have a very clear objective of where we want to go. So what we have done within UNDP is now to increase our ambition and make sure that through our energy programming that we are actually hitting several objectives related to gender equality, so that we are putting women's economic empowerment at the forefront and investing in that development of capacities. So that relates to the value chain, but also making sure that programs are integrating and connecting with women's economic, with entrepreneurship, with livelihood improvements at the grassroots level. We're also working towards ensuring that investments reduce time poverty, which is what the Undersecretary was mentioning too, because it is indeed one of the biggest investments that we can do. Also, making sure that we are investing in gender responsive governance opportunities so that the spaces are created for women and that we're bringing in data. How are we integrating, or what are the lessons of our work doing this? One, that we cannot do without, of course, this gender analysis and this data as the basis for context work. But also, very importantly, that even though we have been talking about this gender and energy nexus for more than 20 years, we still need to invest in that sensitization, in that creation of capacities, right? And that circles to one of the elements that we were talking before on the need to work together with these implementing agencies, with these implementing institutions. And something that has been working quite well is to be able to support piloting opportunities in which this technical support can be provided to the implementing institutions so that they also learn through doing. And then this learning, this piloting informs their own policies and work. And I think, I'm bringing it to our experiences on the energy sector, but this is all applied to others. And I think the other strength that I wanted to highlight is the need to have this participatory and responsive processes accompanying governments. As UNDP, we have these experiences with the NDC review processes, in which 96% of those countries that were supported through this process actually integrated gender equality into their national commitments towards climate change. And we've also seen a shift in the way that dimensions are brought into the policy, because they're not just identifying women as beneficiaries or at the objective of the policy, but actually bringing these references very concretely into different areas of intervention, for example, mitigation. And there we see that the reference to energy and how to integrate gender have increased. Leave it there in case there's opening for more conversation. So over to you, Amita.
Thank you so much, Anna. So, and apologies, I think we are actually really running out of time. I think it was a very fruitful session before, but just to wrap up, one word or maybe one sentence each as a closing on what message you would like to highlight in manifesting the upcoming gender mainstreaming in energy policy, taking it positions that now we are in the discussion that we are about to, provide a new opportunity. I would like to maybe going for Anna, Amy, Director Amelia, and last but not least, Mr. Miguel. Anna, just one word or one sentence, please.
For what we need to include in the policy.
Like the manifestations that you'd like to see later on, like a message as well on that. Yes.
Perfect. The one thing I would like to see in the roadmap is this connection between how energy is a catalyst for gender equality throughout the energy sector.
Okay.
So the call is to increase and acknowledge the other development impacts that we get through this inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. Amy?
She might have taken mine. No, but I think it's perfect that we're echoing the same, that we have these commitments for gender equality and women's empowerment. And so how do we capitalize on the just energy transition, right? How do we bring that to life? These global commitments that we have all made.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ami. Director Amelia?
Well, all I can say is make gender equality central to the ASEAN energy policy.
Wow, that's a statement that we really wanted to hear as a part of the political bill as well. So thank you so much, Director Amelia. Mr. Miguel.
Yes, engage more women's organizations in a dialogue on the energy sector, and also make sure that young girls and young women have a clear track on the STEM field.
Thank you so much. So we have heard everything from you. Well, not everything. There will be lots of days if we want to definitely discuss about this, because it's like a cycle, never ending. So hopefully we will keep you in touch with you. But before that, allow me to just take a short pictures with you all as a testament that we hear from you and we look forward for the next steps as well. So hopefully you can look at the camera speakers, and in 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you so much for your participation and your insights as well. I hope that this is not the end, this is actually the start, where ASEAN energy sector is gonna dive into more and more gender equity policies in the near future. Thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to Rinda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amira. That was a very compelling discussion for us all. We hope you gain more insights from our panelists. As our discussion comes to a close, I would like to invite Mr. Benny Suryadi, Manager at the ASEAN Center for Energy, to provide the closing remarks and outline the next steps. Mr. Benny, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Rinda, and distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Warm greeting from Jakarta, and happy International Women's Day to all of us. We are now coming to the end of the webinar, and on behalf of the ASEAN Center for Energy, I would like to thank every single panelist and participant for your valuable times. I strongly hope that the insight addressed by the panelists will be further developed and create a more inclusive environment in the ASEAN energy sectors. We have explored the undeniable value that women bring to the energy leadership roles, overcoming systemic challenges and leading the charge in the sector transformation toward sustainability. ACE initiative to host this webinar was driven by our vision to champion gender inclusivity, recognizing the untapped potential of women in spearheading innovation and change in the energy landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, that in this webinar, we learned important insights that address the challenge and opportunity for women participation in the ASEAN energy sector. The current situation indicated that gender inclusivity is a prominent aspect to be considered in the energy sectors, underlining on a woman involvement in the decision-making process and project planning. We also acknowledge that the ASEAN countries have proven their efforts to empower women, ensuring equitable opportunities in the energy sectors. ASEAN is shaping up an inclusivity in every aspect through facilitation, numerous discussions on the gender equality. And I'm very pleased to tell everyone that the ASEAN Center for Energy, through various projects that we are currently implementing, on the front row of this transformative effort. As the way forward, one of the key initiatives discussed today is annual publication of the RE Gender Booklet and the continuous monitoring of our progress through the surveys. This initiative will serve as the invaluable resource in tracking our advancement, identifying areas for improvement, and sharing best practice across the region. I firmly believe that this panel discussion could be considered as a further momentum for any initiative or action in gender involvement to inspire inclusion in the ASEAN energy sectors. As also mentioned earlier, that the celebration of the International Women's Days is on March, while we hope this is a spirit that we continue to carry every single day throughout the years. My last information that I'm inviting everyone to look into our website. We have currently 6 leadership positions in ACE open for application. The deadline is on the 31st of March. So as we noted that it's not only just a number, but it's the full inclusion of the woman. One of it, we expecting that the leadership position in ASEAN also have a significant amount of the women. So to conclude, my deepest gratitude to colleagues, my team at the ASEAN Center for Energy for the expectational dedication in organizing this webinar and carries the spirit of the inspire inclusion here at ACE. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining with us and have a nice day. Thank you. Back to you, Rinda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Benny, for concluding our webinar today. Before we part ways, we encourage you to download the booklet that was launched earlier for further insights and information from the ASEAN Center for Energy. We would also like to remind you to participate in the online survey using the QR code shown on your screen. Your insights are very valuable to us. And for those of you who wish to receive e-certificate, please fill in your details using the QR code that is also shown on your screen. On behalf of the ASEAN Center for Energy, we want to express our deepest gratitude to all speakers, panelists, attendees for your active participation today. We hope that the discussion have not only enriched our understanding, but also highlighted actionable steps towards achieving gender inclusivity in the ASEAN energy sector. Thank you once again for joining us today. Happy International Women's Day. Let's continue to champion, inspire inclusion. Have a great day, everybody.